order to teach people individually, one by one, how to act and achieve a solution to the carbon war, we have our first additional speaker from the Northwest Energy Institute, Laci Cagle, who is going to talk to us today about the curriculum that they have to convert your life and your efforts towards a green future. So let's welcome Laci to the stage. Thank you, Laci, for coming.
Is this on? Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm from the Northwest Earth Institute. In 2006, probably most of you have seen, there was a documentary that came out that Al Gore was involved with called An Inconvenient Truth. And he did such a great job in that film of translating climate science into something that ordinary people could understand. So many of the people I know who are ordinary citizens who are doing something to act to make the world more sustainable, to act to have a war on carbon, as Toby has put it, were inspired by that film. I was inspired by that film. But at the end, after he's presented all this data, like Toby's done today, he ended by asking people to change a light bulb. And when you're talking about climate change, when you're talking about greenhouse gas emissions, feedback loops, when you're presented all of the data like we were presented today, and you're asked to change a light bulb, it feels like a really pathetic response. It doesn't feel like you're actually really acting on the issue. And lots of people were really critical of that, that they had gotten so much information and felt so overwhelmed, and then they were told to change a light bulb. But the thing is that if you want to act on climate, if you want to act to make the world a more sustainable place, you have to start somewhere. It has to be actionable. And changing a light bulb might be a tiny step, but it's a first step, which means that it gets you to the second step, and then you can go to the third step. So changing a light bulb might be something that actually can be a revolutionary act to change the world if you keep going. At Northwest Earth Institute, we're helping people take that first step. That's really what we're trying to do. The Northwest Earth Institute was founded 20 years ago in Portland, and our mission is inspiring people to take responsibility for Earth. We do that in two main ways. One is our discussion courses, which are designed to be self-facilitated in small groups. And another program that we do that through is called the Eco Challenge, which is an annual program, 2 weeks where people can choose one action that they would like to change in their own lives that's better for them and better for the planet. Both of these programs have different starting places, but they're both centered around this idea of transformative learning. And I really like how Toby's lineup of talk, communicate, educate, and act. That's really a lot like what we're trying to do with our programs. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about our discussion courses and how they go toward individual action, but the Eco Challenge also is a really great example of that, and I would encourage you to look that up if you're interested in participating. So both of these programs have several key components. One is that they're social. They let people connect with each other. The second is that they're reflective. People learn together and they share that learning with each other, and they think about it for themselves as well. And the third is that they're action-oriented. Transformative learning, if you're not familiar with it, is an idea that true education is so much more than just acquiring more knowledge. That we can find all of this information, we can get all the statistics, we can see all the graphs, but true education is more than that. And transformative learning helps people to recognize the assumptions that they have about the way they view the world and their place in it. And so one, recognizing it, a lot of times we have these assumptions that are completely invisible to us. And transformative learning helps you bring that up, helps you think about, oh, I have this idea that I should be able to drive my car whenever and wherever I want to. Oh, maybe that's connected to this American value of individualism or mobility. And those are assumptions that we're operating on every day, but a lot of times we don't realize that those are the assumptions we're operating on. So transformative learning helps us recognize those assumptions and then transform them. See if it's something we actually want to value. See if that's something that we actually want to build our actions on. And then change that into something that we would want to build our actions on. So the discussion courses that we facilitate, or that we offer through the Northwest Earth Institute, helps people to break those things down into small pieces. So if you're looking at climate change, if you're looking at consumption, if you're looking at our food system, you can see the underlying assumptions about the systems that we've created in the world, and then work to make positive change in those systems. Individual action is good. It's important. It's important to feel empowered. It's important to feel inspired. But if you stop there, then it doesn't really make that much difference. If you're going to get to the 7 billion people being educated about climate and taking action, you can't just stop at walking to school every day. You have to talk about it. You have to engage with other people. You have to have a network of people who are supporting you. And that's really how change happens. Behavior change is a very social process. If you can normalize something in your own life and in your own community, more people are going to be willing to do that. A good example of this is in Portland, how many people bike commute. It's very different than any other city, and it's social. If you start doing it and you get excited about it and people see that it's changing your life, people see that there's a reward that you're getting out of it, they're more likely to want to do it as well. So looking at individual change, here are some of the surveyed responses from people who have done our discussion courses, the changes that they've reported in their own lives. So not only do they 80% feel a greater sense of personal obligation for solving environmental challenges, 72% takes more seriously the challenges of declining ecosystems, and 87% feels their small group was helpful in creating change, but they're actually making real change in their own lives. 79% are buying more local and organic produce, 73% make reductions in household energy, and 73% make reductions in water consumption. 60% more frequently volunteer for environmental causes, and 60% more frequently make alternative transportation choices. That's pretty astounding. Northwest Earth Institute has reached 150,000 people here in North America, in the US and Canada. So that's a pretty significant amount of people who are changing their own lifestyles as a result of doing these discussion courses. But it doesn't just stop there. People are also coming together with their own individual actions and then creating groups who can take bigger action and have bigger change. So Vestas, these are just 3 examples of a whole bunch of stories, but Vestas is an international wind company, wind energy company. They make wind turbines, and they have a Portland office. 12 of their employees 2 years ago did our Sustainable Systems at Work discussion course. And they said, oh, wow, this is really great. We do sustainable energy. This is what our whole business is based upon the idea of sustainability. But in going through this course, they found all these different ways in which they could improve their own operations to make them more sustainable. They decided to pick one thing and change it. And the one thing that they did change was when they ship out these wind turbines to different parts of the country to put them up to generate wind energy, they are covered with these really nice weatherproof tarps, huge tarps. And the way that they were designed originally was that the tarp had to be cut off to be able to put up the turbine. So each time a turbine was put up to generate wind energy, or energy from wind, the big tarp was landfilled. It was just thrown away. Doesn't seem very sustainable, right? So they transformed their assumptions about how that could be done, and they actually redesigned the tarp so that it could be zipped off and reused. So now there are hundreds and hundreds of yards of really nice tarps that are being reused and not landfilled because 12 employees at an international company decided they want to make change. And this bag right here is actually from some of the ones that weren't able to be reused. They made weatherproof, really nice weatherproof bags for their employees to remind them of their sustainability commitment. Another example of individual action that went to collective action is Friends of North Creek Forest up in Bethel, Washington. They actually watched An Inconvenient Truth in 2007. There was a group of community members who did that, and they decided they wanted to take action in their own lives. So they started doing Northwest Earth Institute discussion courses. They learned about a sense of place, they learned about voluntary simplicity, and then they decided they wanted to do something in their own community. Now Bethel is right next to a 64-acre forest, and development of the city was encroaching on this forest. So these folks, about 8 of them, got together and petitioned the city to see if they could write grants for the city to find a way to preserve the forest as a learning lab for all of the people in the city, for the elementary school students and high school students, and have a wildlife area for people to be able to go in and appreciate nature and understand ecosystems. The city said they could do that, and so far they've been successful in preserving 41 acres of the 64 acres there. And then just an example of students at PSU, there's a senior capstone called Sustainability Dialogue in Prisons, and the students do a voluntary simplicity course together as a group in their own classroom, and then they take what they've learned and they go into prisons and talk with actually I think it's at Coffee Creek, so they talk with the women at the prison there, and they actually work together to develop a discussion course on sustainability topics. These are just 3 examples of hundreds of examples just from the Northwest Earth Institute. Obviously, there's so much more happening out there. These are just the people that we're connected with. As Dr. Brown mentioned before, Kim Smith is the person who's coordinating the Regional Center of Expertise for the United Nations here in Portland. She uses the discussion courses from the Northwest Earth Institute in her environmental sociology class. She also does the Eco Challenge. There's so many people who are using these programs in a way that can inspire individuals to take action so that then they can together figure out how to create greater change. It's important to know where to start. It's important to have a stepping stone. It's important to be able to say, I've learned something and I can do something in my own life today or this week or this month to be able to make change. If a person learns about all of the crises that we're currently facing and doesn't feel that, they're never going to get to the place where they can actually be an activist or they can actually be an educator to somebody else. They'll wallow in apathy. They'll feel like they have nothing that they can do to make a difference. But taking a first step, whether that's changing a light bulb or having a discussion group or taking a class to learn more, lets them feel empowered to make further change and to work together with other individuals to make collective change. And that's what the Northwest Earth Institute tries to do.